What is poppin' fight fans? And welcome to the Mystic Hour on the MMA Island. We are back for another episode. And today I got a special guest joining us today. I appreciate him so much. He is a former UFC welterweight veteran, performance of the nice bonuses, so many bonuses, an undefeated bare knuckle boxer. He boxes well. I can keep going on with all the accomplishments that he has. The man, the legend, Chris Lights Out Lytle. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me back. I enjoyed myself last time, so this is fantastic.
Absolutely. We had a great time. And Nick, of course, sends his regards as well. He was here last time. He's my co
Yeah,
host usually, but I appreciate you for joining us today. First of all, Chris, how are you doing? We haven't talked since I think November or October.
man, I've been very fortunate. Everything's been good with me. Um, I'm not sure how in any way I've stayed COVID free. I've had come my family members who have gotten it, and I assume really they've been probably a little safer than me. I've been at the gym a lot. I've just been out doing commentary. I've been doing a lot, and I don't know if it's just that I have a good immune system or I'm just very fortunate. But I've been fine, man. Just staying busy.
Yeah, thank God. Same here down here in South Florida. It's
Mm.
been crazy, and I've been COVID free. Haven't got anything, thank God. But glad everything's all good and healthy. Bare knuckle boxing. You've been commentating a lot, of course. Is that kind of giving you the juices back to want to fight again? Is that going to happen? Because we haven't fought since 2019, I think.
Every now and again it does. I'll see a fight and I'm like, man, that sounds like fun. It looks like fun, and there's still that competitiveness in me. The only thing is, and I only thing that's tough anymore is getting able to train the way you want to. Like to me, I don't know any other way to train besides go in there and go hard. Every day, two a day, and just put yourself through a lot because I'm like, man, at some point in the fight, you're going to get pushed, and you better be, in the back of your head, you've done everything you could to get ready for this fight. Problem is, when you get in the 40s, it stops being so easy to do. Like I'll train hard for a day, no problem. I train hard the second day. Ooh, every the third day, I usually can't. Like I have problems, like back hurts, knee hurts, or I can't continue to train hard day in and day out. So that's kind of where that's been. And I think you see a lot of those guys, they've been caught taking growth hormone, testosterone. That's
Yeah.
why. It's not about being bigger, stronger, faster. It's about being able to train day in and day out. So I don't foresee me being able to do that right now. If I was going to do anything though, it'd be bare knuckle. I mean, it's so much easier to train for a bare knuckle fight than it is for an MMA fight.
Yeah, I'm sure. And not having to wrestle and jujitsu and do all three of the
Exactly.
parts at the same time is probably hard. You guys signed Thiago Alves, Hector Lombard, a couple other guys, Paige Van Zant as well. You think this is going to be a trend of signing more people to bare knuckle?
I think so. And here's, like I was just saying, especially the older guy who still wants to compete and has an ability to compete, but it's hard to get through a training camp. The guy, if you've been training MMA for 20 years, your body's beat up. There's no doubt about it. And going into doing wrestling, doing jujitsu, that hurts, man. So um, I could definitely foresee guys with somewhat of a name who still want to compete. And the bare knuckle people are like, hey, come on, in the water's fine. You know what I mean? So they would love to have these people come. They have skill and they have a name and they still want to compete and it'd be easier on their body.
Awesome. And I would love to see more people sign there and fight in that promotion because it's amazing. Every fight that I watch on there. And of course, your commentary as well. But this this
Thank
this
you.
past weekend, we had a really amazing card. The
Whew.
UFC debuted on ABC.
Yes.
Wow, what a debut. And of course, the talk of the town was Max Holloway's performance against a guy like Calvin Cater. Just so if everybody didn't remember, Max Holloway landed 445 significant strikes. He landed 141 within one round. Chris,
Man.
was this the best performance you've seen watching combat sports? And you've been watching it for a long time and competing in it as well.
I mean, well, it was without a doubt Max Holloway's best performance,
Yeah.
and it's hard to think of one that would have been able to top that. It was a very good display for him, and Cater, I felt bad for him because he comes out there. This is a huge deal for him, and he just got absolutely dominated. I can't ever remember seeing a 50-42 on a couple of the judges, who
Yeah,
had 3 10-8 rounds. I mean, that's
unbelievable.
unbelievable to me. But the dude showed he was tough as could be. But I mean, it was just night and day. Max is just too fast, too quick. He has too much experience. You know, it's funny. I was doing a show with a couple guys, and they were saying, "Man, I think Max is going to look old in this fight because so much miles, so many punches." And I think
Yeah.
Dana said that a lot of the people were talking to him. I think we're going to see an older Max Holloway. And you know, I brought it up to my people. I was like, "Look, I've said that before a couple of times, and it's never happened. So I'm like, I'm never predicting that again. You can't predict when a fighter's going to look old. After it happens once, yeah, then it's probably going to happen every time. But that first time, you never know. Some people are just like genetic freaks, and some you just don't know when they're going to get old. So I was like, man, I don't predict this fight, and you know, I'm glad I said that because I was right. He looked anything but old. He looked phenomenal. So devastating performance, looked fantastic. I mean, he's talking to the commentators in between. He's doing
Unbelievable.
the robot. It was an impressive performance, and I think he showed he still has plenty in the gas tank.
Yeah, some people were talking about him looking old, and I'm like, they forget he's only 29 years old.
I
I get
know.
it. Yeah, 20, he's not even 30 years old yet.
I
And
know.
for people to say that, I understand it because he has the mileage from fighting so much, but he still hasn't, he might not even be at his prime yet. The way that he's fighting and the way that he showed his heart there was amazing. But one thing that he did say that he didn't do this past training camp was spar. You
That's
think
what
that
I was
had a
about to
big,
bring up.
yeah.
And he said he doesn't really do real sparring anymore. And what people don't realize is, you know, if you have in boxing especially, they talk about, oh, he sparred 100 rounds for this fight, a 12-round fight. So you're probably doing about 10 times as many rounds sparring as you are actually fighting. So that's where a lot of the damage comes from, day in, day out, grinding, sparring, training. You get tired and you keep going. You go with all the different people in the gym. I mean, and if you're not doing that, I think that can extend your career somewhat. So I think that's a big part to it. This as well as the fact that he has developed a better approach to fighting. Instead, he's got the skill. He doesn't need to get better at that aspect of it. You got him, and then you got other people like I remember James Toney. They said that's pretty much all James does. He doesn't train; he just spars.
James Toney, he's a crazy one. But
Yeah.
you think that this is a good idea for other UFC fighters to do less sparring and take less damage? Because I've heard a couple of gym stories. Some guys get knocked out before a fight,
Yep.
before a fight. You think it's a better approach to take, and you kind of are fresher in the fight?
Yeah, but I think it depends on this ain't a one size fits all. Depends
Mm-hmm.
on who it is. You know,
Yeah.
if you have a guy who's extremely skilled out there and he has a lot of ring savvy, he's been in the ring many has a ton of rounds, then yes, I think it is. If you get a guy who's had 6 fights and he's won by 3 in the first round knockout, I don't know. I mean, because does he have that ring savvy? Does he have enough experience? Does he have enough cage time to really get it? And once you have that and you get it, then sparring is a moot point. The point of sparring is to be prepared for the fight.
Yeah.
But if you've already had that kind of knowledge, then it's just about getting in shape.
Yeah, and then he definitely was watching a lot of tapes, or his team. I feel like they don't get enough credit for him to throw those no-look punches, for him to dodge the strikes out Calvin Kattar and combinations he was throwing at him. He for sure had that watch a lot of tape.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're not going to be sparring, you better have everything else lined up properly. You do your studying, do your cardio, make your weight properly. I mean, it's a full. There's a lot of different things that go into your fight camp, and you can add or take away from somebody. You can't just stick with one thing and that's all you do. I believe you need to make sure everything's the way it should be, and that you could tell that that's what they did for this fight.
Yeah, so there was 3 10-8 rounds in this fight. If you're Calvin Kattar's corner, at some point are you just calling that so he just takes less damage, or you just letting your fighter go until he can't anymore?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
And to me, if you're fighting and it gets to the point where there's no chance of victory, then you got to start wondering, why are we doing this? There's nothing we can do besides take a beating. Then it's not good. But if you feel like you're going to have the ability to knock the guy out or get him down and submit or something, then I say by all means you need to keep fighting. As a fighter, you never want that to be called. So that was the question there. Did you feel like in the last round, was he gonna be able to muster up enough to get a knockout? Probably not. But I didn't have any problem with them not stopping. It wasn't. I mean, a couple times I thought in the third, maybe in the fourth round, they might have stopped it, but when they didn't, I felt like I don't think this guy's going to win. But I didn't really have a problem with him his corner not stopping. I'd be right on the verge. So if he in there a couple times, I might have thought, hey, we're going to stop this in the middle of the round. Probably not in between them.
Yeah, and I know he was taking a lot of damage, but he still was throwing strikes. He didn't get wobbled too many times.
No.
There was no point where he was just completely out of it to where he couldn't continue. So I kind of understand that as well, and I agree.
And when he would throw some punches from sometimes, like, man, he could catch Max. He could hurt him. He really could, because he's still throwing some power. So I kind of got it, but I mean, it was close. It was close.
Yeah, especially when he was against the Cajun, he was still throwing those elbows. He was throwing that with a lot of power behind him. So I wouldn't have stopped at that fight either. Is Calvin going to learn a lot from this kind of an experience, kind of go up in his career, or took too much damage and this is going to hinder him going forward?
Well, that is a question. You can never really tell. Hopefully he learns from it. It's like, okay, more seasoned veteran afterwards. But, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people, once they have that era of invincibility crack, they're never the same. I don't think that'll be him, though. He's been beaten. I think he'll hopefully be like, man, I got to change some stuff up. If plan A is not working, I better have a plan B and a plan C. You cannot just continue to go, this is what I do. And I was like it. Sometimes I'll be doing fighter interviews with guys. I'm like, what do you do? It's like, I don't care what he does. I do what I do. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. All right, maybe if you can do that, but you better be the best in the world at doing that thing. Because if you find somebody who stops that and you have a plan B, you better figure it out. So hopefully Cater will be like, okay, now I see if I can't do what I want to do, I better have a backup plan.
Yeah, and I never understood that. Sometimes fighters would be like, "Oh, I didn't watch anything that he does. I'm just only worried about myself." You have to. You must be that great to not have to worry about what this other person is going to do, because I don't think that's the greatest game plan to go about it.
I've never been that good to be able to just say, I'm just going to do what I do. All right. I mean, I do like the fact where, people sometimes, they're like, worry about somebody coming in their camp and seeing what they're doing. I'm like, hey, I can show you what I'm not going to do anything tricky, but are you going to be better at it than me? But I'm not just going to try and do what I do. And if it doesn't work, just stick with it. I'm not, that's foolish to me.
So much kudos to Calvin Kattar for sticking in there, and Holloway, of course. Hopefully he gets a title shot next. In a co-main event, we had Carlos Condit and Matt Brown take on each other. Probably a matchup we've been waiting on for a long time. They put on a really good performance, for two guys who are older in the game. Not to say that they're old. Matt Brown's 40, Carlos Condit's 36. Carlos Condit came away with the victory. But does Matt Brown have anything more to prove within MMA?
I would have to say not. And I like Matt Brown. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. Yeah. But it's to the point now, it's like you said, what are you even proving at this point? One thing about, Matt's always been a great fight. Put on a great fight there, but at the same time, I felt like he got a little tired in that fight. And you could tell. I think he won the first round, I thought. The judges didn't give it to him. But I thought he did up the first round, but the last two, he looked tired. You know what I mean? I just felt like he was probably not going to be able to get the job done. So, and that was a perfect matchup, too, because you have Carlos, who's been there for a while, kind of older like this. Well, he's not even that much older, I guess. He's had a lot of experience, I was shocked when I was like, he's only 36. We almost fought twice, and knee problems, once me, once him, and it just never happened. So, but I remember I didn't know he was a decade younger than me,
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that if you guys were close to fighting, because I know you fought Matt Brown twice, you beat him two times. Carlos Condit. You guys have always been around each other. But I go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I remember I was training for a fight with him, and I blew out my ACL and my meniscus and had to have surgery. And I was out for about 6 months. And then we were going to fight again, and he hurt his knee. So I was like, oh, I guess these knees were just not letting this one happen for some reason. Yeah.
And I was saying this in the podcast episode before. You think it would be cool this was Carlos Condit's last fight on his UFC contract. Yeah. You think he should go to maybe a Bellator and try to see if he can capture a championship there? Because he's fought a majority of the guys in the UFC. He's had a lot of problems with wrestlers, especially it's top heavy with wrestlers with Usman and Covington, guys like that. Why not go to Bellator and fight somebody maybe like a Douglas Lima and kind of have that kind of a challenge?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Like you're saying, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to have the ability to go up and go for a title run with the UFC, but
Mhm.
going somewhere else, it might be not a bad idea.
Yeah, and then Matt Brown. Why not? Part three, you Matt Brown, bare knuckle. Does that sound any kind of interest to you?
That sounds like a fun one and all. But, I mean, come on, man. Here's my problem. Look at the face. I don't want to be getting any more scars on there. I got plenty. And I'll be honest, it's funny. Like, I enjoy doing the commentary for it, man. I'd love to
Yeah.
commentate my own fight. That'd be kind of fun. But I don't know how I do that. And who knows? Maybe if I go in there and I start fighting again, maybe they'll find somebody like better at commentating. Like, you're out, Chris.
So Joaquin Buckley fought on this card, who had one amazing KO that they
Yep.
kept replaying. He had a KO right after that, but he ended up getting KO'd by Alessio I can never say his last name, De Chirico. And you think that Buckley kind of has that pressure on him now to always try to get a knockout, because he was pressuring a lot, kind of just looking for it. You think this is going to be an ongoing thing with him?
Unfortunately, I think, so because you have that, one of the best kicks you've ever seen, the best KO you've ever seen. There is pressure after that. It's like, people are waiting to see you fight again, and they don't want to see a decision. They don't want to see, they want to see you knock somebody's head off. So you kind of have to always continue to try and top what you've already done. And that's going to be impossible to do. So, like you said, you saw him pressuring, and when they say you live by the sword, you die by the sword, it's very similar to that situation here. When you go in and you throw heavy punches and kicks, if you hit him, you're going to hurt him, but you open yourself up and you don't hit him. And he just got caught with a head kick. And like I said, you live by the sword, you die by it. So that's what happened. He died by it right there. He came in, he tried to, do his thing. He's throwing big shots the whole time and opens you up for a lot. And that's what happened. He got caught. So I hope he's able to kind of get out of that. Hey, that's what happened that one time. But you have to be smart about it now, because everybody's looking for some craziness, and if they're smart, they're going to be a counter puncher right there. And he just got caught with a head kick and done.
Yeah, and Alessio is a very tough guy. A lot of people were talking like he was going to get washed in there, but he's only lost 3 split decisions that he could have won, to be completely honest. And he's a very tough guy. And I think the UFC was trying to set him up. Maybe Buckley can give him another big knockout on ABC. But Alessio did something pretty different after, and he did not want to do the post-fight interview. He said, "There's a winner and there's a loser. There's 2 people in this cage, and both people should be interviewed." How do you feel about him saying something like that?
I mean, that's his right to say it, but I mean, unfortunately, this is an entertainment business, and this isn't just a pure sport, and this is about entertainment, and you don't honestly have time necessarily always to interview everybody, and a lot of people want to hear this person who usually won. What are they doing now? They're on their way up. The other people, they're taking 2 steps back probably. So I understand he's right in some ways, but man, I mean, that's not reality. I mean, I wish things were different too, but it is what it is. And I know Dana didn't seem very happy about it. You saw him, he's like, dude, I walk in there and they look like they lost a fight. Like, nobody tell those guys they won the fight. So and I just wonder how much good it does for you to kind of bite the hand that feeds you in a way. I understand what they're saying, but this is a brutal sport. Everybody knows it going in. When you lose, things are about as bad as it gets, and when you win, things are great. And he won, so lucky for him, things are great. But if you're gonna sit there and say I'm not doing this unless the loser gets an equal share, that's never gonna happen, dude. So you pick your battles, and I don't think that's one worth fighting over.
Yeah, and he's a guy that, always wanted more attention towards himself because he felt like he wasn't getting the credit he deserves. And then he finally gets that limelight on a card like on as big as ABC and just totally declines. And I would understand that if it was 2 fighters who just went to war. It was more of an even fight.
Yeah.
He pretty much dominated Buckley, knocked him out in the first round. It wasn't too close of a fight. So it's like, this is your time to shine. Go ahead and do that.
I didn't really understand either. Like I said, that's a losing battle. You're never going to win it because it doesn't matter what's right or wrong. It matters the reality of the situation. And the reality in the world we live in is he's going to get interviewed. That's it. So.
Yeah, and speaking of people who like to shine in the limelight, we have a huge fight this Saturday with Conor McGregor taking on Dustin Poirier for the second time at a different weight class at 155. I've been asked so many questions. Is there any way Poirier is going to win this fight? Can he find any way? Does Conor McGregor have his number? I think there's plenty of ways that Poirier can win this fight, and I think he's gotten better as his career has, as he went up to lightweight as well. And
Absolutely.
And in the damage that he doesn't take as much damage compared to the 145, and he's not cutting that many pounds. Chris, Dustin Poirier comes in at 183 pounds for his fights. I found this out recently. Is he cutting too much weight for 155, or he'll be fine going against Conor because he's already used to it?
I mean, if he this is what he's used to, I think it's going to be fine. I don't think that's going to be an issue. The more you make weight, the easier it gets, the more your body adapts. I mean, it's not at 145. He's got an extra 10 pounds. To me, the question isn't even much about Poirier. I think that since his last fight, I think some people, when you have a loss like that, you either get better, you get worse, you dwell on it, or you use it and overcome things we've already talked about. I think he's been much, much, much better since the first time they fought. What this fight about to me is Conor. Like, how does it affect you when you get $100 million in the bank? Do you still have that fire? Do you still have that drive? Do you still have that, desire to go out there and put in the rounds day in and day out? And when going gets tough, are you going to want to push through it and be like, I don't need this? You have to have some fire, some burning, desire to do this sport. And is it still going to be there when push comes to shove? That's the question to me, And I think Poirier, he's the constant. He's going to be here. He's going to be ready to go. And he has ways to win. Even that being said, if Conor's 100% mentally there, but if Conor's not 100% there, I definitely think Poirier is a favorite. And that's a question I can't answer. I'm not in Conor's camp. I don't know anybody in Conor's camp that would have that kind of information for me. But to me, I mean, if Conor gets out there and things get going tough and he quits, I mean, I could see that happening because none of us other people have that kind of financial security to even understand what he'd be going through. Do you understand? So
Yeah.
I can see that being an issue, but I don't know. I think Conor has enough. I don't know if the right word is arrogance about him, but enough where I think he would have a lot of shame in going out like that. So I think he's going to come to fight, and I think it'll be a great fight.
Yeah, I always look at Conor's motivation to how his body looks, and just like certain training things that they'll show, and if he'll be out or whatever that it is. But now we're in a time to where everything's locked down. So maybe he's more locked down with where he is. He had his own personal training camp in Portugal, I believe. His body looked good. I remember when he fought Khabib, he looked a little soft, like he wasn't training too hard. It was just a little bit of a different look of a Conor. But I think Conor predicted, he said he'd beat him in 60 seconds. I don't know if he'd do that fast, this kind of a Poirier. Maybe 145-pound Poirier, but this time, I think it's going to be a war, maybe a crazier kind of a war, and it's going to get very bloody. It might go all 5 rounds. We don't know what kind of conditioning Conor is going to be in, because he kind of has that later round. He kind of just loses a little bit of that energy. But it's going to be very interesting to see them at this age, 2 guys who are now fathers, both at 155 pounds, and this is potentially the Khabib sweepstakes, because Khabib said, hey, let me see how these guys look on Saturday. They impressed me enough. Yeah. I can fight them next. You think Khabib comes back and fights one of these guys if they have an impressive performance? I mean, 2 guys he already beat.
It's possible. I mean, I'm not real sure. When he went and met with Dana on one day, and then he has another meeting with him the next day, to me, that's kind of telling everybody that something got worked out day one. Now we're looking into other aspects of day 2. So kind of sounds like it. I did not think he would come back. I really didn't, especially he said with his dad out there, he didn't want to do it. I understand it's emotional at the time, so maybe those things change, but I kind of thought he would. But, to me, that when he meets with Dana a couple of times, sounds like something might happen.
Yeah, I would love to see Khabib come back and go against a Charles Oliveira, because the way that Charles has looked recently and how good he is on the ground, Khabib is a guy who likes to dominate his guys on the ground, but Oliveira has amazing jiu-jitsu, probably maybe the best jiu-jitsu in the 155-pound division. So that would be very interesting to see, but I guess we'll find out on Saturday. And I don't think Khabib is going to be there because security reasons, him and Conor don't get along too well. So that's a little bit risky.
Oliveira, man, that guy, I mean, he's another guy who I'm not 100% sure how old he is, but I know he's a lot younger than you would think, because he's been around there forever, man.
Another one of those guys.
He was young. He was super young. and he's just really he's starting to peak, I think. And man, I mean, when he did to Ferguson, shocked everybody. I think he was like, man, I mean, I knew it was a tough fight for Ferguson, but I did not think it'd be that one sided in any way. I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, and tomorrow we got another really good card as well. Earlier in the day, Michael Chiesa is taking on Neil Magny in the welterweight division.
Yep.
A question I have for you, Chris: do you think Magny should keep taking these 7, 8 fights? Like, I mean, in a sense of like he's ranked 8, he takes 7. He's ranked 8, he takes 9. If he wins this fight tomorrow, should he call out somebody in that top 5, top 3? Because continuing to fight within your same rankings, it's not really getting him anywhere.
No, and I think he definitely needs to do something like that. But I think for a long time he just kept doing whatever they're asking. He went through a tough stretch there, but look at I like him to win this fight just because I think if you look at who he's fought, he's fought a murderer's row right there and been very tough. And I think he's lost some of those fights, but I think he's learned quite a bit now. I think he has more of that big fight experience that's going to pull him through on this one. But like I said, if you fight tough guys for so long, you're just not going to win them all. That's the nature of this business. So unless you just kind of get fortunate and get a nice little streak of 3 or 4 in a row and doing it the right way impressively, you're not going to advance like you need to. So he needs to get this and needs to go against somebody and needs to catch a break. I mean, he's kind of been right there on the verge, but one thing or for one reason or another, he's never been able to break through. He has to get a win here, and then he's got to get a bigger fight, and he's got to break through on that one too to get to where he wants to go.
Yeah, I hope the winner of this fight takes on like a Hazmat Chaimov, because I feel like they're giving Hazmat somebody too highly ranked, and they're kind of going to ruin his streak that he has there, because he's supposed to fight Leon Edwards, and Leon Edwards is a very, very tough guy. The guy's well-rounded. He's good everywhere. I kind of felt like maybe one of these guys was a better fight for Hazmat.
Yeah, and thing with Edwards too. I think when has he won like 8 in a row or something?
8 in a row. Yep.
Yeah. The problem is he's hadn't fought in a while. So, but yeah, that's we talk about this a lot. Is a lot of times you have a guy, kind of like the hype train. He's doing really well, but then they want to throw him in right away. And it's like, man, most times they do that once they give him in there with a veteran who's done well, they get knocked backwards, But when they break through, then you're like, oh my God, we got something special. But I'd say 75% of the time they get beat by the guy with the more experience. They kind of push him a little too fast.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one tomorrow. That card starts at 12 Eastern time for anybody that's watching. It's going to be an early card tomorrow. But last thing before I get you out of here, Chris, and thank you, of course, so much for being on today.
Of course,
I appreciate you. A little bit of a controversial thing happened the other week, and you're a commentator, and so is Pat Miletich. And Pat Miletich was unfortunately fired from his job at LFA for being in the riots in DC.
Yeah.
Do you think that was fair for something like that to happen? Should he have kept that to himself and not kind of because he posted photos on his Facebook, or somebody else did? Do you think it was fair for him to get fired from his job?
Well, I mean, it's a business, and they can do whatever they want. If they feel like it's bringing negative publicity to them, I mean, I know a lot of people be like, "You have a First Amendment right." You do have a First Amendment. You can say whatever, but that doesn't mean if a company's going to lose money, they have to keep you. So, I think what that would depend more on is what exactly, to the extent of what the person did. If you're in there and you're busting windows and you're still and stuff, and they see it, it's one thing. If you were at the rallies and didn't go in, that's a totally different thing. You know what I mean? So I think it depends on to what extent the person, to what they did, would affect that business. And if somebody's there just protesting, I have no problem with that. If you're in there looting and rioting and breaking laws, then there's a difference. So I think it totally depends on what was done, and that's how I would say it. To me, you have 100% right to do it, and I would stand by somebody who, even if it's not my opinion, I would stand by it. But if somebody's breaking the law and doing things like that, you can't stand by it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, it's just I guess it's risky in this time period because all of these things are very sensitive topics, and there's a lot of people who's be getting fired from their jobs recently. So maybe not the smartest decision in his sense to put that out there, but I don't know. Hope the best for Pat Miletich and what he does. He's a great commentator.
And
I enjoyed his commentating.
Not only is Pat a great at commentary, he's actually a very good guy. I remember back in the day, especially, a lot of people don't realize. I mean, Miletich trains, they had the best fighters in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
they had like 3 out of the 5 UFC champions in their gym. And he was always like the calming factor. Like those guys, whatever happened, like Pat was, he was a very influential guy, taught well. And he just kind of made sure everybody acted the right way. Like he's a good guy, very well respected. And, I really enjoy him and like him and respect him. So I hate seeing this for him, but man, yeah, you gotta understand just because you gotta know how the things are today, man. You can't go say this is what I did. People, I don't know. It's nuts, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the UFC, one of the first UFC's first lightweight champions.
Yes.
But we got an amazing card tomorrow. We got an amazing card on Saturday. So many fights coming up. It's an amazing week for fights. More coming down the road. Chris, I know you had something that you were on previously. I don't know if you want to tell people about that. I saw it on your story on Instagram.
Yeah. I'm working with the B2 Fighting Series, and we have some fights going on this weekend down in Alabama as well. I'm doing the bare knuckle commentary for BKFC the weekend after that. But yeah, we're doing a Strike Car Promotions down in Alabama. I got my own Lights Out podcast, so check it out sometimes, guys.
All right. Of course, we're going to check that out. We appreciate you so much for coming on today, Chris. Of course, again, whenever you want to come on, you're always invited.
Hey man, just hit me up, man. I'm always free.
Absolutely. I'll of course I'm always listening on a commentary for Bare Knuckle. Can't wait to hear it when Paige fights. That's going to be a really good card, and any of the cards that they have. Have a wonderful rest of your day, Chris. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, boss.
Thanks, guys. You have a good one.
The man, Chris Lights Out Lytle, baby. Ooh, love him. We'll be back later on today, actually, with a podcast part 2. We're going to be previewing and talking about some other things. Hope you guys can join us on here. Appreciate you guys so much. Always. Remember, fights tomorrow, fight Saturday. Be on there. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. Come back on later on. We will be here. Me, Nick, Serge, Aldrich will be here. Holler at you guys later. Peace.